It was the last 2 days when President Trump decided to remove the Venezuelan dictator, Nicolas Maduro, using U.S. military forces to do so. I right away was on News Nation with Leland Vittert that Saturday night because I was so furious about the initial reporting done by the American press, which is essentially dishonest, as you know. But it wasn't so much they were dishonest. Yes, they don't, anything Trump does, they don't like. We know that. But they had no idea what was happening. None. Or why it was happening, and they didn't know anything. So I did slap the suit and makeup on, went on News Nation, and we have posted it on BillO'Reilly.com, my segment with Leland Vittert, for premium and concierge members. Another reason why I hope you consider joining our club there. Because you got the best information, lightning speed, all right? And why you're wasting, I'm involved with this because I was watching other news agencies, and I was yelling at the television set, you don't know what you're talking about. And as you know, I have experience reporting from Latin America. Anyway, tonight we're going to give you every bit of what happened and why it happened, and that is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Plus, we're going to take you to Caracas. We have a guest, a journalist who's on the ground there. So we have, once you get through with us, you'll know what's going on. Number one, U.S. Special Forces descended into Caracas, Venezuela at 1 a.m., okay, on Saturday morning, 2 a.m. Caracas time. We're an hour ahead of us. Okay. They targeted Maduro and his wife, who were in a military compound outside of Caracas in so-called safe place. And it wasn't safe because the deal was made before the U.S. Delta Force went in with the CIA that the Venezuelan military would not protect the dictator Maduro. Okay? That deal was already made, and they did. There were no U.S. casualties. There was no police intrusion on the part of the Venezuelan government, nothing. So they sold Maduro out. They snatched him, put him on a helicopter. He went to the USS Iwo Jima, which was off the coast of Venezuela, transferred to a military transport place, took him to New York State, where he is incarcerated in Brooklyn, and today pled not guilty to narcotics charges and a whole bunch of other stuff that the Justice Department alleges. Now, Maduro obviously is entitled to his day in court. Due process extends to him, but he will be found guilty. The evidence is overwhelming against him. You have to remember that the American CIA is all over the place in Venezuela, Colombia, Honduras, Mexico. They know what's going on. And right now, the CIA is essentially running Venezuela from the American embassy in Caracas. There is no American ambassador. Okay? CIA is calling the shots in association with the Venezuelan military. That's why you don't have any kind of crazy chaos going on there. Not to say that bad things might unfold in the future, but right now, no U.S. casualties. The New York Times reported there were some Venezuelan casualties, but nobody else has reported that. So I don't know what's true and what isn't. I'm certainly not going to trust the New York Times. Okay, who is Nicolas Maduro? Well, he was a corrupt politician, friends with Hugo Chavez, the communist who took over the Venezuelan government. Chavez died in March of 2013. Maduro was vice president. He just took the government over. Maduro effectively wiped out any political opposition, so he was elected and reelected. The whole game that has been going on in South America since World War II. Okay? You just shun the opposition. Anybody who opposes you, you throw into jail. You terrorize the people and you run the country. That's what they do in Cuba. Okay? And I can give you 20 other South American countries where that has happened. That's what Maduro was doing. And if you don't believe me, all you got to do is go to Amnesty International, the furthest left organization on the planet. They document all of Maduro's suppression of freedom in Venezuela. Amnesty International documents it. Now, the crazy liberals in the Democratic Party, they don't even know that. So, they got Maduro. He's here. He pleads not guilty. The process goes forward. What is going to happen is exactly what happened to Manuel Noriega in Panama in 1989. So then, President Bush the Elder moved 27,000 U.S. troops into Panama, snatched Noriega, took him to Miami, where he sentenced to 40 years for narcotics trafficking. Noriega sold Panama to the drug cartels. Bush removed him. Now, there wasn't any reporting Saturday night on that. It's exactly the same. Exactly. All you heard was War Powers Act this, War Powers Act that. Now, to get more specific, because we need you, the American person, voter, to understand. The syndicate that Maduro allegedly worked with is called Cartel de las Soles, S-O-L-E-S. Okay? In the summer and again in November, the Trump administration designated Cartel de las Soles as a terrorist group. That means, under American law, we can use American military people to attack that cartel, just as we did to attack Soleimani. Remember that? Taking him out, the Iranian henchman, and ISIS, and Osama bin Laden. There's no War Powers Act. Okay, it was like basically, okay, president has authority, if he deems a group to be terrorists, to attack them. But we all understand that. Apparently, the Democrats don't. Okay. And I don't want to make this a party thing, but it's absurd. It's insane. Now, what happened in Panama is what they call precedent. So if the Democratic Party does anything legally, the Supreme Court is going to say, no. There's been precedent since 9/11 and then before, since 1989. American president has the power to protect this country. Does not have to consult with Congress on every action. In fact, how could you possibly consult with Congress on bombing the Iranian nuclear facility or snatching Maduro? We have a weak debate on Maduro, like he's not going to know what you're doing? That puts American military lives in danger. All right, doesn't matter. None of this matters to the Democratic Party or the media that supports it. Roll the tape.
And I think that's why a war powers resolution is absolutely necessary right now to debate.
I directly asked Secretary of State Rubio whether the administration would come to Congress and basically ask permission of Congress, which is consistent with the Constitution and the War Powers Act.
We need to have the War Powers Acts put into place so that anything that happens requires approval of Congress.
No, it's not going to happen. The War Powers Act basically says that if you declare war, you got 60 days to bring that declaration for congressional approval. Okay, but we haven't declared war on Venezuela. All right, we arrested a alleged criminal that was hurting our national security by allowing tons of cocaine to be smuggled in here. That's what we did. Now, the worst, and I mean absolute worst, politician in this country today is Senator Charles Schumer, the minority leader. This guy is an amazing hypocrite. The Biden administration designated $25 million reward for the abduction of Nicolas Maduro. Did you know that? The Biden administration. So we'll pay you $25 million if you can get Maduro and bring him up here. Schumer say a word? No. Did you know it? No, you didn't. And if you did, write to me, Bill at BillO'Reilly.com and tell me how you knew it, because it wasn't reported. All right, so Schumer shows up with that nitwit George Stephanopoulos, who I just crucified today on Message of the Day on BillO'Reilly.com. This guy is so ridiculous, I don't even have the words anymore. Anyway, the two of them are on the Sunday show. Go.
You heard Secretary Rubio there. He says the United States has the authority to do what they're doing.
They
right
do not.
now.
They do not.
Why not?
He couldn't even answer your question. There is no authority to go. They did not just do ships off the water. They went inside Venezuela, bombed civilian as well as military places. And it's a violation of the law to do what they did without getting the authorization of Congress.
That's just false. Now, he's either too stupid to understand that or he's lying. And I don't know of any action to bomb civilians in Venezuela. It certainly hasn't been reported. Now, Schumer did the exact same thing in the Iran bombing, almost word for word. Oh, what happened there? Nothing. Nothing. And how did that turn out? Schumer said it was going to lead to a, quote, wider war when Trump bombed the Iranian nuclear facility last summer. Did it lead to a wider war? No. In fact, Iran's on the verge of collapse right now. So, do you think Schumer might temper? No. Because he didn't care. He doesn't care about you or me or the country. He is a fanatical left-wing person at this point in his career. It's just stunning, it really is. This will never get to the Supreme Court, but if it did, they just throw it out in a heartbeat. Okay, so in 2020, when Trump was running against Biden, okay, we'll go way back then, Schumer wanted Maduro removed. Roll it.
He hasn't brought an end to the Maduro regime. The Maduro regime is more powerful today and more entrenched today than it was when the president began.
Schumer wanted him out. And he was criticizing Trump for not getting him out. I mean, talk about a colossal. I have to tell you this, I've been doing this, more than 30 years now, news analysis and reporting more than 50. I've never seen a more irresponsible politician ever than Charles Schumer. And that goes back to Civil War days. I mean, this man just lies to you. And that's why the Democratic Party has no credibility whatsoever. That's why, even if the economy doesn't surge this year, Republicans might still hold on because the Democrats are so bad, because they're led by Charles Schumer. He's the most powerful Democrat in the country. Okay, let's sum all this up. So the action that the Trump administration took was legal. There is precedent. Maduro will be convicted. He will never see freedom again. Noriega got 40 years. Maduro will probably get 40. Okay, his wife will get 10 or 15. She went along with it, but she's not the threat. I don't know what's going to happen inside Venezuela. No one can predict that. I have a guest coming up in very shortly who's going to give us his opinion, but I don't know. I don't think we should have American military presence walking around that country, but certainly we should, we being the American government, oversee Venezuelans to temporarily stabilize the situation and set up free elections. CIA is perfectly capable of doing that, and I would assume they will do it. But I don't expect any kind of Iraq action or Afghanistan where these fanatical people are trying to hurt United States troops. I don't foresee that. If I'm wrong, I'll obviously report I'm wrong. And that's the memo. One more thing. Kamala Harris. I was curious, so I tortured my staff and I said, where's Kamala? Just because she could be president. All right. So she did post something on X, and here it is. Donald Trump's actions in Venezuela do not make Americans safer, stronger, or more affordable. Maduro is a brutal, illegitimate dictator that does not change the fact that this action was both unlawful and unwise. We've seen this movie before. Wars for regime change or oil that are sold as strength but turn into chaos, the American families pay the price, unquote. Okay, I don't see any chaos. My family isn't being damaged by this. Is your family being damaged by this? I don't see that. Okay, Kamala Harris. So what is your solution to the drug cartel problem, Madam Vice President? What is it? What would you do? Nothing. Biden helped the drug cartels, and you went along with it. You told the people on The View, I wouldn't change anything. President Biden helped the international drug merchants, helped them by having the open border. And Kamala Harris said, oh, yeah, it's okay with me. But now, no. American families are paying the price for snatching Maduro. How? How am my family paying the price? I think the region's going to be much better off without Maduro. And his pal over in Colombia better watch his butt too, because he's playing the same game. Both Maduro and the Colombian guy took vast amounts of money, according to the Justice Department, from the drug cartels to let them operate openly. It really, I'm trying to make this as vivid as I can. And it's not a political screed. It is telling you what the reality is in this country. So you may hate Trump's guts, but he's trying to alleviate certain problems. Harris is no solution to any problem ever. 74 million people voted for her. All right. Let's bring in our guest, Roman Camacho from Caracas, Venezuela. Mr. Camacho is a very brave man, and he won't tell you that, but I will. He's an honest journalist in a country that's corrupt. He's been put into prison for things he said. But we wanted his eyes and ears on the ground. So, first of all, the people that you have spoken with in the last 48 hours, are they angry that Maduro has been kidnapped by U.S. forces?
Well, there are two sides of this story. We have Venezuelans that are afraid to go out to the streets and celebrate. And we also see people that are rallying against the Trump's administration, and they want their president back. So we have both sides. Yesterday, I spoke to at least 3 people in a rally that was in the downtown Caracas next to the presidential palace. And they want their president back. Even one of them was a colectivo, one of the armed forces of the government that protects the revolution. And he said that if he could be able to go to the United States and take justice by himself against Donald Trump, he will do it. So they're very angry about what happened here in Venezuela. And a lot of people are also afraid and don't want to show any celebrate. They don't want to celebrate. They don't want to post anything on social media or even on their status update on WhatsApp. So there are fear, and also there are some people very angry.
Okay, do you have a prevailing wisdom here? So we understand there are Maduro supporters. Most of those people make money off the dictatorship. They like him. And then we also understand that there are people who are, Venezuela is one of the poorest nations in the hemisphere, even with all your oil. Should be a very prosperous nation. At one time you were. But for the last 25 years, under the communist dictators, it has gone down, and most Venezuelans live in poverty now. So I can't imagine they're big fans of Maduro. And the second question is, Mr. Camacho, why would Maduro have to fix elections, all right, which have been documented, if he was so popular?
Well, that we haven't even recovered from the 2024 election. Maria Corina Machado is in exile, and all the ballots or all the proof about this alleged fraud are abroad. So Venezuelans are also waiting for the official results here in Venezuela. Venezuelans doesn't know which was the real result. We only received like a small briefing from the Electoral College.
Yeah, I know, but look,
if you read, and they said, well,
if you read the Amnesty International report, Maduro banished opposing parties. Come on. I mean,
exactly. There's no opposition right now here in Venezuela.
But I'm very interested in the man on the street. All right, when I went to Caracas and spent some time there, it was a dangerous city. I didn't walk around at night in Caracas. I mean, there was a lot of drug activity there were a lot of thugs there. I didn't really feel comfortable there at all. And with the economic profile of your country, I can't imagine that people wouldn't say this is a good thing. But I'm trying to get your assessment. Do you think most Venezuelans are happy that Maduro is gone?
Well, you could say that because you also seen the demonstration abroad, or but in Venezuela you
Right.
cannot say that. At least you talk to some people with your neighbors and with your friends, and you'll know that they're happy with the decision, but they cannot show it. That's the truth.
I got it. But just to put this into context, the Venezuelan community, the largest in the USA, is located in West Dade County, just west of Miami. And they've been there for quite some time, but they're middle-class people. They're like the Cubans who fled from Castro. They came over here because they were getting brutalized by Maduro and Chavez, so they got out of there. So they're not looking at it. They hate them. But they are very, very happy. But I'm just wondering, the people walking around today in Caracas, and now Maduro's gone, and his crew is never coming back, whether they feel relief. I understand they're afraid. I understand they can't go out and say that. That's why we have you on, okay? And you have to watch what you say too. But do you really believe that your friends, your family, people you know, they really wanted to continue with Maduro? Do you really believe most Venezuelans wanted to continue with this guy?
No, most Venezuelans doesn't want to continue with Maduro. They want a new government. They want
Right.
alternate the government here in Venezuela. They want new faces, new ideas, new businesses, new everything. So for now, the problem is that okay, Maduro right now is in New York. He's been indicted for drug trafficking, but we still have all the structure. We have Delcy Rodriguez as president. We
Yeah, we got all those. But remember, though,
we have all the structure.
I understand, but remember, the CIA is really running that place. And they made the deal, as I said, with the Army. The Army was not going to intrude on this thing, all right? So the Army said, take them. That surprise you?
Well, of course it was surprising, but what surprised me the more was that today 2 journalists are being detained just for being in the streets. Other people are being harassed by the intelligence forces here in Venezuela. So
All right, there's still low-level thugs doing that. All right.
The Trump is here, but
Good to know.
still,
Good to
we still
know.
have some human rights violations here in Venezuela. So I don't know what's changing or how much it's going to take us to change this.
I hope it does change. One final question for you. The fear level is going to take a while to go away. Because once you live under a communist dictatorship, and I've been to plenty of them, and you're right, people, they don't want to be killed or banished or, just got back from China, and those people over there, they're not going to get out of line, all right, because they know what's going to happen to them. But I don't expect any anti-American displays, mass uprisings against the USA in Venezuela. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong. But first, we have to do like a transition. We cannot get Maria Corina Machado and Edmundo right back in because you have to control the military forces. You have to control the militias. You also have to control some people that are part of the colectivos that they don't want another government. They just want Maduro back. So
Right.
you cannot do it at once.
It's going to take a while to weed it all out.
But it could work.
Right. But I don't expect an Iraq or Afghanistan situation in Venezuela.
No, nothing like that. We wouldn't see that.
Mr. Camacho, we really appreciate you taking the time. You're a brave man, as I mentioned. If you need anything from us, you please let us know, okay?
Thank you so much, Mr. Wright.
Right. Well, it's a good day for us. Once again, we were far ahead of the repertorial pack in telling you about what was happening in Venezuela from Saturday night onward. And when I go out there and say things, report things, analyze things that turn out to be true, that is a good thing. And that's why you're here. So we are an independent news agency. As you know, we do not do podcasts. We do actual reporting. in a broadcast linear fashion. And we have an amazing amount now of people delivering what I say and do. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Truth Social, that it just exploded later on the broadcast. Anyway, what am I talking about specifically? That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Okay, so I get a letter from a concierge member in California. Now, we keep the identity of concierge members private. That's one of our services to them. It's private line to me. You have a question, you have a comment, you have a situation you need help with, we are there for you. Concierge program on BillO'Reilly.com. So this guy writes, O'Reilly, I heard you say something like the Venezuelan military did not protect Maduro because they had a deal with the CIA to give him up to Delta forces. What was your source for this information? I cannot find any mention of this anywhere, and you will not find any mention of it. Now, my source for the information is anonymous, so I did not report it as fact. I used it in my opinion analysis on News Nation Saturday night. Roll it. So the CIA pinpointed where Maduro was, that the army would not help him. His own army didn't help him. His own police force didn't help him. Okay, nobody helped him. Delta Force went in. The CIA guy said, there he is. Go get him. They got him. And now he's walking around with a silly hat in Brooklyn. Okay. So the concierge member goes, well, how can you say that if you're not going to source it? And again, the sources are all anonymous, and I don't report anonymous stuff as fact, which separates me, but I can incorporate it into my opinion analysis. All right. So today what happens, the Wall Street Journal pops an article that says, quote, late last year, the CIA cultivated a source within Maduro's inner circle who provided information about his whereabouts. Wall Street Journal previously reported that. The spy agency's close tracking of Maduro's location, which leveraged other surveillance elements, including stealth drones, allowed the Army's Delta Force to nab him and his wife during the raid. People familiar with the operation said, maybe they're the same sources I have. But what the Wall Street Journal didn't report is that the CIA made a deal with the Venezuelan army. Because you cannot have a foreign army, USA, drop into a military compound where the president of a country is residing, grab that guy, take him out of the country without one single gunshot fired. That is impossible. I'm not on the level of Sherlock Holmes, but I have some deductive reasoning powers. And I know a deal was made. And there are other deals have been made. And I'll tell you about them as they unfold. But the CIA, which largely resides in the American embassy. There is no American ambassador to Venezuela, by the way. That has not been, nobody's been confirmed. CIA is running that country. Now, the Venezuelan military has to go along with it. And that's why Maduro is in Brooklyn, New York. And he'll never get out of prison. This guy. Okay? He's there. He's going to get 40 years just like Noriega. So, I'm telling you all of this because when I say something, I'm very, very precise about whether it is I'm reporting a fact or I'm reporting an opinion. And when somebody tells me something, and I'm on the phone all the time with sources in our government, foreign governments, whatever, and they need to be protected, I protect them. And I won't tell you it's fact. Okay, like most of the others will. They'll use anonymous sources as facts. I don't. Okay, and that's why you're here. And I don't get it wrong. Okay, remember the last time we had to correct a story? I've been doing this 9 years now. An independent news agency. And before that, more than 20 years on a Fox News channel. Maybe I corrected 3 stories. Because we are very, very, very disciplined in what we put out there. But my service to you is, if I say it, you can trust it. Trust is earned. And that is the memo. Now, the Trump haters, the dissenters, which is most of the media, they don't know what to do, okay? Because the raid was successful. Maduro's out. And that's better for the people of Venezuela. But now they seized upon a really absurd situation. Now, a guy named Rick Stengel, he used to be, I think, the editor of Newsweek, veteran journalist. He works for MS, and he's paid to say bad things about Donald Trump. When you sign on with MS, that's the deal. We'll pay you money, you say bad things about Trump. Here's what Stengel's latest is on Venezuela. Go.
I'm going to give you a sentence that never came out of Donald Trump's mouth, which is, I want a really comprehensive, airtight plan for how we're going to govern Venezuela after we depose Maduro.
Well, he doesn't have a really airtight plan, because how would you know that? The Trump administration didn't know that Delta Force would go in and get Maduro as cleanly as it did. They hoped. They had things lined up. How would you know? And even if the president has a plan in his mind, that plan is going to be difficult to execute. It's a foreign country. It's not easy. And why on earth, and Stengel knows this, that's why I don't have any respect for him, you wouldn't tell the world and your adversaries what you're going to do until you do it. I mean, that's the absurdity of, Trump didn't consult with Congress about the raid, because there couldn't have been a raid then. Once you go in and tell the world, hey, we're going to get Maduro, then it goes up in flames. Same thing with the bombing of Iran. You can't say we're going to bomb Iran on Sunday. You got anti-aircraft all planned. Come on, you're putting U.S. service people at risk. These people know this, but they don't care. They're lying to you. Airtight plan. Moron. But he isn't a moron. Stengel knows. But he's, And if you know any history, which most television pundits don't, we did the same thing in Vietnam, El Salvador, the United States. CIA goes in to a troublesome country, a country that's hurting America, and they destabilize the country. Been going on since World War II, OAS, okay? And that morphed into the CIA. It's just ridiculous. All right, poll on Venezuela. Now, keep in mind that most Americans know nothing about it. So this is Washington Post. First question. Do you approve or disapprove of the USA having sent military forces into Venezuela to capture Maduro? Approve 40, disapprove 42, unsure 18. Political party. 74% of Republicans approve, 13% of Democrats, 34% of independents. Next question. Was it appropriate for President Trump to order the operation on his own? Should he be consulted with Congress? Appropriate on his own, 37, Congress, 63. Now, that's because people don't understand. You can't do covert operations with congressional debate underway. Okay, because the media doesn't really explain it. All right, next question. Do you think the United States should or should not put Maduro on trial for drug trafficking? Should 50, should not 14, unsure 36. And that's, again, if you're unsure, that's an honest answer. You don't know. Okay? But I can tell you without any doubt at all, Maduro will be convicted and he will get what Noriega got. The indictment against him and his wife is fairly extensive. Why? Because they got the DEA and CIA all over Venezuela. I mean, come on. All right. Now, the Associated Press is part of the problem in the United States right now because it hates Trump. Okay? It hated me. Probably still does. All right? Because I wasn't a liberal commentator. And for years, Associated Press did nasty things about me, never said anything good, even though I was the dominant anchor man in the country, never. So they hate Trump. And they filed a report about Venezuela. It was filed by a White House reporter for the Associated Press named Amir Madhani. Amir Madhani, January 3rd, quote, While there are no visible signs of a U.S. presence on the ground at Caracas, Trump was demonstrating chutzpah that's become a trademark of his foreign policy approach. It's one marked by grand confidence that his will on the international stage is immovable force. Now, this is in a news report, not a commentary. So if Mr. Madhani wanted to write a commentary, that's fine. No problem. But a news report with the word chutzpah and all this other business about, hey, what are you, a psychiatrist? This is what the AP does all the time. And that wire service goes out to all the newspapers all over the world. And people just read this stuff. They don't know the slant that is built into the AP's coverage of Donald Trump. Joining us now from Washington, D.C. is a former Associated Press correspondent in South America. He's been around a long time. Ken Silverstein. He now is an independent investigative reporter. So am I making any mistakes in my analysis, Mr. Silverstein, first up?
Well, on Venezuela, spot on. And I have reported from Venezuela numerous times since going back to 1990 and Colombia too. I mean, the U.S. government, the CIA, clearly cut a deal, not just with the army, but with Delcy Rodriguez, who is, going out and saying, we'll never stand for this.
Let me interrupt you for a moment. The deal with Delcy Rodriguez, the vice president under Maduro, was made after the snatch, not before.
No way.
No. Trust me on this, Kent. She had no blanking clue, because if she did, she would have blown the whistle. And she did not, because she didn't know. The deal with the army generals who control the country, as you know, they controlled it when you were there, when I was there. Okay, they got the guns. Okay, it was made before the snatch. Go ahead.
I disagree.
Okay,
because
fine.
I mean, there's no question that she doesn't have the authority to, and the deal had to be approved by the head of the army and the head of the Interior Ministry, who controls
Absolutely
the guns,
right.
as you said.
But Dulcie has a cell phone and could have blown the whistle on any raid before it happened, and that's why she did not know. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So anyway, I think there was certainly a deal cut. There's no question about it. I mean,
So why didn't the
you said-
Associated Press report that?
Well, I guess I hadn't read
You
that
know
article.
it. You know it. I know it. All the veteran reporters in the country had to know it, or you have to resign from your status of a veteran reporter. Why didn't the AP report it?
I absolutely think that mainstream media, with the exception of Fox News and Newsmax and
Right, the right-wing people. Right.
the right wing, who are favorable to Trump for the most part. There's no question the media has a bias against Trump. The mainstream media, the elite media, the New York Times, the Washington Post, CBS News, AP. I mean, that's obvious. It was obvious. I wrote an article in 2016 before the election, before the presidential election, shortly before the election, which Trump won, which politically, you and I probably disagree on most things. We will agree on some stuff, but I'm on the left, but I worked for the New York Observer, which was owned by Jared Kushner. And I was given a column because I was considered to be like an honest lefty, which I think I am, because I will go after if I get a good story, I'll go after whoever it is. And, but it was obvious that, the media has always treated Trump unfairly. And I have to say, I guess I'm reluctant to say why the AP didn't do anything, because I maybe somebody else wrote an article that talked about a deal.
No, they didn't. We searched it. They
Okay,
did.
well,
Okay,
that's
but
a pretty
here's
big
my
omission.
point. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds because the folks are not in our industry. They don't do what we do. But the Associated Press is really the far and away the strongest wire service in the world. It goes out everywhere. Okay, and they cannot stop, all right, with their anti-Trump coverage. Now, they do it a number of ways. They don't report stories, as we just demonstrated. If you and I know what happened, and I believe you did too, because I know your background, all right?
It's obvious, yeah.
They obviously knew what happened, but they wouldn't report it. That, to me, is sinful. That's deception. That's hurting the American people. It's hurting the people who rely on the information coming out of the Associated Press.
It's fundamental information that you cannot understand what's happening in Venezuela or what happened with the raid to get Maduro without knowing that. If they didn't agree, if they didn't report that, if they haven't, and I trust you that you searched for it and didn't find it. I haven't, which is why I was reluctant to say too much about this one guy. But, that's a terrible omission. I mean, it's...
Right, and the guy, the White House correspondent, concentrates on chutzpah, putting his own opinion in there.
Yeah.
And again, fine if he's a commentator, but he's a White House correspondent. What the deuce you doing? And so what I want to know from you is, because you work for these people, and it's a whole different outfit now than it was when you were there.
We have
totally different. Do they know how dishonest they are? Do you think?
I don't think they do, and I don't think probably Stengel, you said he knows he's lying. I doubt it because, and this is a question that we will never be able to answer really unless Stengel sends an email to somebody and says I get paid to lie, because it's hard to know. But I think the elite media is, again, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the CBS, CNN, they are unbearable because they are so sure they're right. They don't do any reporting. When I was in Venezuela covering an election 20 years ago or 25 years ago, and all of the reporters that came down, all they do is they're not stupid. You're right. They're not stupid. They're the cream of the country. They're Ivy League, and they're, I'm sorry. I don't know if you went to an Ivy League school, but it makes you dumb because it teaches you that people come out thinking that they really are smarter than everybody else.
No, I know it. There's an arrogance and I did go to Harvard, but I got around that. I took a shot, a vaccination against it. Here's my last question for you. Okay, so if we are in a country that is dependent on a free flow of information, Ken, okay, we are dependent on it. As I said, the regular folks, they don't know Maduro. They don't know what's happening. They don't know why Trump did what he did. They hear and they're reading and they're not getting the story. I think the younger brigade of reporters aren't smart enough. They don't know what happened in Vietnam in 1964. They don't know the CIA was running South Vietnam. They don't know the CIA deposed the people over there. They don't know anything. And yet they're hired by these outfits to do important reporting. But if the American people can't get the information, isn't that going to damage our country severely pretty soon?
I mean, it already has. I think it's, the media is people with journalists, if you I write about the press because I think the press is an important, powerful institution, as powerful as Congress, as powerful as the White House. It plays an incredibly important role in shaping the narrative on every story. And, but you can't call reporters. They won't talk to you because they're arrogant and it's already damaged the country.
Yeah, but I see much worse stuff ahead. You're right. It has damaged the country. And if you compare the Biden coverage with the Trump coverage, I mean, it's just crazy. All right, Ken, thanks very much. We appreciate your voice. Thanks for being a stand-up guy and coming. Final thought. Let me get a little water here because my voice patterns are Now, the water and the voice tie into the final thought. So I'm overworked. My own kids are yelling at me. And that's true. They're yelling at me. I go, hey, you're an old guy. Why are you working 60 hours a week? I don't have an answer for that. Other than I think I'm doing a service, but I got to cut back. And I am going to cut back. I already have. So on WABC, our flagship radio station, and we love them, they were carrying my program 9 to 10, but I was doing fresh material for them in that hour. I can't do it anymore. So I've handed the hour off to Joe Concha, you know Joe, talented broadcaster. So he's going to take the 9 to 10. But I'm still going to do the morning commentary with Sid Rosenberg and the noon commentary on WABC. So I can do those because they're not quite as involved as the nighttime commentary. All right. So WABC and I will continue along, but I'll have to do what I usually do for them without the 9 o'clock hour. But I want everybody to know that I'm going to continue doing this. This is our mainstream broadcast, and I have to do that. I told my kids that. I said, look, you take my voice out of the equation, and then what do you got? Well, all the years that I've been reporting 51, they disappear. And I'm honest. And I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't care where the truth lies. So I'm gone, and then what? So I have a responsibility that I'm going to continue to do. But I'm shaving off, I don't know whether I'm going to write any more books other than Confronting America. It's hard to write these books, particularly when you're working full time. I'm doing it now. About 60% done with it. But it's hard. And I'm not whining. I'm well paid. But I don't need the money. I shouldn't say that. The money that I accumulate now all goes to charity. Okay? For the foundation. So, I'm pleased to have it. Anyway, that is the final thought of the day. I'll be around in our very aggressive form, but we'll cut back around the edges. And thank you for watching No Spin News tonight. We will see you again tomorrow.